Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Hello there everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I thought it would be a good time to do part 2 of going through all of my herbs. So I have my second of the 3 boxes here to go through and label with you today, or get rid of if they are no longer any good. Last time was a lot of fun and you all wanted to see another, so here we are to do another. It'll be the same as last time. I'll grab the herb, figure out what it is, and label it if it's not already labeled. And yeah, it'll be a ton of fun. This has been a very productive way for me to get through all of my herbs, and I've been feeling really inspired to create more. And especially as we're going into spring and summer here, I will be accumulating a lot more herbs, so it's important that I go through and clean up my supplies. But before we go any further, this video is sponsored, so let's hear a little bit more about that.
Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is a website building and hosting company, and as I'm currently working on putting up a website, it is very exciting to get to partner with them. With Fluid Engine, a next-generation website design system from Squarespace, it's never been easier for anyone to unlock creative design. You get to start with a best-in-class website template and customize every detail with reimagined drag-and-drop technology for desktop or mobile. You can stretch your imagination when it comes to online design with Fluid Engine, built in and ready to go on any new Squarespace site. One thing I really love about Squarespace is their flexible website template. You get to get started with one of their professional website templates with designs for every category and use case. Then customize your look, update the content, and add features to fit your unique needs. You can make any Squarespace template do what you want, so your idea, brand, or business stands out online on every device and can be as unique to you as you dream. Another thing that I really love about Squarespace is the ease of working an online store. Whether you sell physical, digital, or service products, Squarespace has the tools you need to start selling online. So if this sounds interesting to you, go to squarespace.com/thegreenwitch to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring, and let's get back to the video.
Alrighty, welcome back. Let's dig in, shall we? First and foremost, I have an easy one that is already labeled, and I've been pulling it in and out of that box a lot, but I wanted to make sure that I shared it because it's chamomile, and that's one of my favorite herbs of all time that I work with quite often. I just shared a recipe involving chamomile if you're interested. And yeah, it's a fantastic herb. I adore it for its calming and healing properties. I use it in a lot of moderate purification practices or gentle purification practices, but most of the time I really love it for its calming properties. So, love chamomile. She is perfect. The next herb I have is, elderflowers. These are beautiful. They're kind of a much more gentler version of elderberries. I mean, they're the flowers, so flowers are a little bit more delicate a lot of times. This jar is not labeled, so we'll need to do that, but elder itself is a beautiful protective herb and one that I turn to a lot. The elderflowers and the elderberries I use a lot in medicinal and or just cooking kind of recipes. They're something I use primarily for medicine, but the elderflowers themselves are really lovely and delicate, and I enjoy them in a lot of culinary respects. Usually I like them as a syrup to add to drinks and things like that, but it's a wonderful herb. Love it in medicine, love it in magic, and I do super recommend it. But let's put a label on it first. Alright, beautiful. I also really love this jar. As with before, I'm gonna have kind of a medicinal pile and a magical pile. So these two are so far primarily medicinal uses in my house. So they're growing over there. The next one that I have is, again, some rose hips, which I had a ton of them from last time, so I'll probably add these into that jar from last time and not label this one. Talked about roses and rose hips quite a bit in the last video here, so I probably won't dive too deeply again with them here, but wonderful, calming, loving herb, classic. Love to keep them around the home. The next one I have here is Dandelion, which I have a ton of dandelions actively drying right now. I will be filling up this jar very shortly. glad that I found it because they are just about ready to go into this jar. I love Dandelion for its medicinal properties and also it's magical. I don't use it except for in the springtime, usually in medicine or magic, but I do think it's a ton of fun and it's a very bright herb for this time of year, so there's some marvelousness to that. But in general, I do like to have it on hand. I find it to be a kind of gentle purifier that I like to add to bath teas when I need to kind of get rid of some energy that isn't really serving me. So that's one of the main reasons that I keep it around. But this one does need a label. Perfect. Another one for the medicinal pile. So far, all yellow flowers. Okay, up next we have a bit of dried garden sage. I do believe that we talked about this in the last one, but I can't remember. It's fantastic for cooking. I do involve it in some of my cleansing practices, but for the most part, I just kind of keep it on hand. I do believe that I talked about it in my last one. So this I will be adding to that other jar of sage to free up this one. Ooh, now we're getting into some fun ones. I have one guess. Yes. Okay, so this one is dandelion root. Dandelion root, again, we talked about dandelions here. I really like to make coffee with it, or I used to. And I haven't in a long time, but it is super delicious. It is a little nuttier, I think, is maybe a word I would describe it with, than a regular old coffee with a coffee bean. And I think it's a ton of fun. It's another means of working with dandelions, and I enjoy having it on hand. But this one is kind of old. I think I will keep it for the novelty of it. I'm not going to label this guy because I should go through it pretty quickly, and I forgot that I had it. But dandelion roots are a ton of fun and can add some interesting flavors to some cooking and other things that maybe I will explore that avenue with it as well. Now, next I have 2 jars of Meadowsweet. One of them is labeled, the other is not. So these I will be needing to combine into a larger jar. I have really begun to adore working with Meadowsweet in magic lately. It's one I'm still getting to know, but I've been adding it to a lot of calming infusions lately, and I just have really been enjoying it. There's something really light about how it works, and I've just been very drawn to it. So I would recommend working with Meadowsweet if that's something that you are kind of looking for in your practice, something a little bit light. It's easy to work with, it's very comfortable, but it's also beautiful medicinal as well. Next up, we have one of my beloved jars of cinnamon sticks. I know that I have another somewhere. I adore cinnamon in practices for prosperity, but primarily I use it as a fortifying herb in magic, which essentially means that it will boost the power of a spell. And cinnamon specifically will also increase the speed at which a spell works, which is often a very good thing to have. It is a wonderful herb to work with in the fall and winter especially. You can work with it any time of year. I usually buy my cinnamon sticks in bulk and I just absolutely adore them. I use them all the time. These I use strictly magically. I do have some cooking cinnamon sticks as well, but I absolutely adore them. I'm not gonna label this one just because I do know for certain what it is, but I would recommend getting your hands on some cinnamon sticks if you don't already. You can work with just powdered cinnamon if that's easier for you, but I do really like the cinnamon sticks because you can tie them on to things like reeds or hanging herb bundles, or just toss a few in your pockets if you need it. Here we have some more of that sassafras that I talked about before, and a lot of mint. This is not mint. This one might be something different. That is something different. I think this one might be lemon verbena. Well, I'm not quite sure what this one is yet, so this will be a question for later. It is a leaf, it is ground up, it smells kind of sweet, but it doesn't have, it's very soft. It's very much a tea herb, and I know it, but I can't pick it out right now. We'll come back to it. Again, we have more rose. This needs to be added to a different one. Well, I don't know if I have a lot of different rose operations. This one is labeled. We've talked so much about rose, but I do adore it. So putting that in the medicinal one, maybe in the pile that needs to be added to other things, because I might have that one unpacked. I thought I didn't have any of these, but I do have a few. I should use these up. These are nettles. It is not labeled. I will be using these, so I will not be labeling them. And I do want to get a few more and probably put them in a bigger jar. Nettles are a fantastic herb, especially at this time of year. They are so powerful. They're very healing. They're very direct. They have strong ties to purification, to hex breaking, and I believe to even banishment. I really like them in their healing aspect. I have a cold right now that I just cannot seem to kick, and I will be drinking nettle tea and possibly throwing these into some soups that I have to help with that a little bit. I often also like to add them to bath teas just for energetic cleansing, but they're pretty potent. I have a video, I don't know if this video is coming out before that one or not yet, but I will dive pretty deep into their purifying properties in that video. So nettles are fantastic. Very much recommend getting to know them, and they grow really abundantly in kind of marshy lands in a lot of the US and Europe, so you are probably acquainted with them if you're watching my videos, because a lot of people who watch my videos live in those areas. But they are a very beautiful herb. Watch out for their sting, but once they're dried and or cooked, they're not really gonna sting you anymore. So beautiful herb. Love nettles, and I thought I was out of them, so I'm glad to have found that. This one I adore. Okay, so now I believe in the last video I filmed there was an herb that I didn't know if it was a crabapple blossom or not, and I know for a fact now that this is a crabapple blossom, at least in this jar. I don't remember exactly if that one was or not. I think I ended up getting rid of that one, but these ones look pretty good still, and I would use them in magic. I might place them in a specific area because I like the tie of wisdom and learning that apples, and specifically crabapples, have. So I don't think I'm gonna label this, and I think I'm gonna put it in my research area for some added research benefits. So I'll put this over here next to the cinnamon. I should have filmed that last video back to back so I could remember all these things. Maybe I'll have to give it a watch through here soon. This is mugwort. That's not labeled, and it should be. I was really into mugwort 2 winters ago. I was using it a lot for sleep, I believe, and maybe in sleep practices. It's a really interesting herb to work with. It's a powerful divinatory aid, which isn't something I work with quite a bit, but there was just this period of time where I felt really inspired by mugwort and studied up on it pretty well. I have a profile on it in my book, and I'm trying to remember what I can, but a lot of it's kind of tucked away. It's a really unique herb. You can find it growing in the wild in a lot of areas, and I really enjoyed working with it when I was drawn to it at the time. It's one that I haven't touched in a long time, but I would be interested to reconnect with it, but this one needs a label. Mugwort can be drank as a tea. It should not be drank by pregnant women. It is not good for a fetus, and there are just some other health things that are worth looking at. I have a list in my book of some contraindications and just cautions, but it is a really interesting herb altogether, magically and medicinally. Now we are getting into some of my favorites. This is hibiscus, and I have a ton of jars of hibiscus because I got a big old bag of it. I didn't have jars big enough to put them all in. So I am gonna not label this yet and put this in a place to put all together because I have maybe 3 or 4 jars of hibiscus that are this size. I really personally just adore hibiscus tea. It is so delicious, and I love it so much. I know it's a very good for you tea, but I can't remember specifics, and I also don't remember the specifics of its magic. So I will have to get back to you on that in the next video on these. But I have a ton of hibiscus and I absolutely adore it. Next, these are, oh, I love these. These are Redbud blossoms from Virginia, from my home. My mom brought these when she visited me last year. They've lost quite a bit of their color, but I just adore them. I'm gonna put these in my home here because they just feel like home. I just love all of those delicate spring herbs. Here we have some more of that dandelion root. That's precarious. Okay, now we have a whole nother layer to go through. Oh, fun. Okay. Oh, I was right. I was totally right. This is lemon verbena, and this has to be lemon verbena. Let me compare. It's lemon verbena. They're both lemon verbena. Adore lemon verbena. I've been getting more into it, especially last spring and this spring. It's a really nice purifier, and I just have been really liking it. It's a very calming herb, and I like it medicinally and magically. All right, those two need to be combined. So my first instinct was right. I really wasn't sure, but all right, cool, I'm glad. Hibiscus. Oh, this is milkweed. These are, well, milkweed pods. I was doing some experiments with these magically for transformation, and I kind of slowed down on that. I usually keep this in windows or spaces because I live in the city, kind of as a hopes to transform some of that heavy energy that can seep in and change it into the energy that I would prefer for my home. So I will probably do that again. But I really do adore this, and it's one that I want to continue exploring. These have deep ties to monarch butterflies. They lay their eggs on them, I believe. And so that's why I have been experimenting with this for transformation, because butterflies are very transformative. So I'm curious to continue some of those experiments, but this one again will just be going somewhere in my home. That's also from my home in Virginia. The entire backyard is now all milkweed. It's beautiful. These ones, oh goodness. Oh, I bet you, let's see. I'm pretty sure. I think that these are wild roses from home. Again, we've talked so much about roses, but my favorite roses in the world are the wild roses that grew in my yard. They smell kind of peppery, and oh, they're just so lovely. I adore them. All right, now we're getting into some fun ones that you will probably know well. This is anise, or anise. I think you can say it both ways. I don't know. I really do enjoy this herb. I don't use it very often nowadays. This I use strictly magically and will continue to. I'm not gonna label this one because it's very obvious what it is, but it's a cool guy and I like it all right. Now this is a fun one. This is marshmallow root. This I use only medicinally, though you can use it magically if you wish to. It's great for a sore throat, and it's just a really, really cool herb to work with medicinally. When you add it to hot water, it becomes really gooey, which is why it's good for a sore throat. It kind of coats and helps, and it also just can aid with a lot of illnesses that kind of relate to that. So this is fun. I should add what it is, though, in the label. All right, labeled and put in the medicinal area. Surprise, surprise, more hibiscus. So much hibiscus. Cloves. I love cloves for a lot of fortification purposes. Really, that's the primary reason that I work with them. But they are also very prosperity bringing, which is also really great. So more of a wintertime herb. I'm kind of moving on from them at this point, but I do adore them. They're also good in cooking. This is my strictly magical jar of them. Again, I'm not gonna label them because it's so obvious as to what they are. And it just takes a lot of time to label. Okay, we have some fun ones here. This is chrysanthemum. It is one of my favorite protective herbs come fall. I adore it. It is so powerful at that time, and one that I just feel so deeply connected to. I don't know why, but it's always been one of my favorites, primarily in the months of September and October. I work with it quite a bit then, so that one should have a label. Very beautiful. This is a Strictly Magical one. And then this one, it's time to say goodbye. I tried to save it for as long as I could, but the color just didn't last. These are violets, believe it or not. They don't really look like violets anymore, but once upon a time they were. So time to say goodbye. I don't really have a good place to harvest violets out here, and so I have started growing them in containers to see if they can work well that way. This year I'm just gonna let them flower and die off and not harvest any, but soon, next year, hopefully I will have a full harvest of them. Next we have just a few bits of fern, which I always use for fortification. It's one of my favorites in the summertime for fortification, so I only have a tiny bit of it. I need to get a little bit more of this. And this is nutmeg, which I don't use a lot of, and I can't remember if I talked about it in the last one, and I think I did, so I'm just gonna tuck her away. But yes, I have a lot of nutmeg. And honestly, maybe I should combine them. I should probably do that. I don't remember which order. Next, I have even more mint. Told you I had a lot of mint in that last one. I have so much mint. And I don't remember what this is. It is a root of some kind. I'm inclined to say that it is astragalus, but I think that's just because that's the first root that comes to mind, and I'm not positive. But I do not recall. And it might be one that I need to get rid of. So I'm gonna do some sitting with it and researching before I make any concrete decisions on it or labeling it. I might end up having to get rid of it because I don't remember what it is. I haven't worked with this in many, many years though, and I don't really remember what I used it for. I got this about 4 years ago, which roots can last that long, but I don't quite remember what this one is. And then finally, oh my gosh, the last one is another bit of chrysanthemum. So I'll just put this one in with the rest of the chrysanthemum here. Again, adore it for September and October. It's just such a powerful protective herb, and one that I use, I'm so drawn to it. I toss it into spell bags, I tuck it into reeds, I put it absolutely everywhere. It can be used in other times during the year, but it's so potent then. End of August is also a good time to work with it. So with that, those are all of the herbs in my second box of herbs. There are some repeats for sure, but a lot of new visitors as well. This one was very heavily medicinal and also a lot of the same herbs in different containers, so a lot to rehome. But I'm having a lot of fun doing this. It's something that I have needed to do for a long time, so thank you for coming on this journey with me. I hope you're having as much fun as I am, and I honestly am also just a little bit surprised by the number of herbs that I've collected through the years. I suppose it makes sense. Practicing herbal magic and herbal medicine does mean you accumulate a lot of herbs. But my goodness, it has taken a long time to get here, and sometimes even I forget the ones that I have. Luckily, we had a lot of labeled ones today, so that's good, or a lot that needed to be moved around. But this has been really fun for me, and we got one more box done, which feels really good. There's still one more to go through, so I will be sharing that with you in a handful of more weeks. I'd like to go through it relatively soon, but I don't want to overload you with these videos. So we'll see when it comes out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Let's wrap it up here, I guess. If you can and would like to, I'd really appreciate it if you checked out my Patreon. There I share art, herbal profiles, so profiles on most all of these herbs that I've shared with you today. You can find them there. And I will be sharing ones on the ones that I haven't discussed here. I share one a month, so you'll get a very in-depth magical profile on all of these herbs at some point if they aren't already there. I think So far in this, I've probably only talked about maybe 2 or 3 herbs that there isn't a profile for, so if you're interested, they're all there for the most part. I also share book recommendations and monthly workshops. Those ones are a ton of fun. Really enjoy having those interactive lessons with you, and they're great. It always gives me a lot of energy, and I love getting to connect with you all kind of more on an individual level. I also have another channel where I share more vlog videos, day-to-day stuff, more herbalism, magic, all those good things. And as you probably know, I wrote a book. It's all about herbal magic. Also has a lot of these profiles, and will get you from the beginner to more of an intermediate level. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, all of these things will be linked in the description down below. Thank you again for watching, and I can't wait to see you again soon.